Sofia Martinez sat perfectly still at the edge of the bed. Her red silk dress draped around her like liquid fire. Her hands trembled as she twisted the platinum wedding band that felt too heavy for her finger. It should have been the most romantic night of her life, but it felt more like a beautiful execution. Her father's desperate words echoed in her mind, insisting this was the only solution. If she didn't marry Mike Sterling, they would lose everything. Their family business built over 3 generations, their home, her father's dignity. Mike Sterling, a billionaire real estate mogul, ruthless as winter and twice as unforgiving. Known for his cutthroat deals and his ability to destroy competitors without blinking. His name was synonymous with wealth and ice-cold ambition. And now her name would be attached to his forever. It all happened so fast. Just 10 days ago, she was reviewing contracts at her father's office, trying to save what was left of their crumbling company. Now she was married to a man who could buy entire city blocks and demolish them just to build something grander from the rubble. The wedding had been spectacular. Of course it was. A private estate venue, cascading orchids and white roses, a Vera Wang gown that cost more than her father's yearly salary, champagne that flowed like water. Yet it all felt hollow. There had been no warmth in his eyes when he said, "I do." No emotion in his voice as he slipped the massive diamond on her finger. Just a curt nod, like closing a merger. Sofia hadn't cried then. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. But now, hours later, in the sprawling penthouse suite of his glass tower overlooking the glittering city, she was alone. She had walked through the pristine space. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, white marble floors that reflected the city lights below. Beautiful, breathtaking, but nothing like home. It felt like a gilded prison. The bedroom door swung open. Startled, she turned to see Mike walk in. He had changed out of his designer tuxedo and into a black button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No jacket. He looked like he'd stepped out of a Forbes cover shoot. Sharp features, commanding presence, eyes that gave nothing away. He didn't smile, not even a hint of warmth. He spoke with a voice as smooth and cold as polished steel, asking if the accommodations met her standards. Sofia straightened, fire flashing in her eyes as she questioned whether he meant the penthouse or the part where she became his property. Unfazed, he walked to the bar cart near the window and poured himself 2 fingers of scotch, telling her calmly that she needed to understand something. Their marriage was a strategic alliance. He needed a respectable wife to secure his international partnerships and present the right image to conservative overseas investors. She needed her father's company salvaged from bankruptcy. A mutually beneficial arrangement. She flinched at the clinical detachment in his voice, asking if that's all she was to him, a business asset. He turned, sipped his scotch and met her gaze with unsettling directness. "I'm not going to lie to you and pretend this is something it's not. I don't do fairy tales. I won't ask for your affection. You'll have your own suite, your own space, unlimited resources. But don't expect romance. Don't expect my time. And don't expect my heart." He paused, ice forming in the silence. "Consider yourself another property in my portfolio. Act accordingly." Her breath caught in her throat. She asked in a whisper if that meant they wouldn't even share this room. He set his glass down with deliberate finality. "We won't share a bed. Not tonight. Not ever. I don't believe in pretending." He gestured toward the door. "Your suite is in the East Wing. Everything you need has been arranged. The staff will show you in the morning." Silence crashed between them like breaking glass. Sofia felt tears burning behind her eyes and asked why he even bothered marrying her at all. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He explained that in his world, perception was everything. A single billionaire raised too many questions about commitment and stability. Investors trusted a man who appeared grounded, family-oriented. She had been available when he needed someone. Convenient. The word hit her like a physical blow. She turned away, gripping the edge of the bed as she stared at her reflection in the dark windows. A woman in a red dress who suddenly looked very small in a very big cage. The city lights below sparkled with life and promise, everything she wasn't feeling. She whispered that she wasn't just some acquisition. She had feelings. She was a person. He didn't respond. Tears threatened to spill, but she held them back with everything she had. She wouldn't cry in front of him. He said goodnight, calling her Mrs. Sterling for the first time, and turned toward the door. Just before he reached it, she found her voice again and told him he didn't have to be cruel. He paused, something flickering across his face. Was it regret? Pain? Exhaustion? She couldn't tell, and it vanished as quickly as it appeared. His final words were delivered with devastating precision. True cruelty would be letting you believe this could ever be anything more. Then he walked out. The door closed with a soft, final click. Sophia stood frozen in the silence, the weight of her new reality crushing down on her. This was her wedding night, the moment every girl dreams about. And she was standing alone in a stranger's penthouse wearing a red dress that suddenly felt like a costume, feeling like a ghost in someone else's life. She walked slowly to the massive windows overlooking the city. The lights below twinkled like fallen stars, millions of people living their lives while she stood 40 stories above them in a beautiful cage. She pressed her palm against the cold glass and finally let the tears fall. Not because he didn't touch her, not because he was cold, but because some small, foolish part of her had still hoped. Hoped that maybe, just maybe, when he saw her in this dress she'd chosen so carefully, he might see her as more than convenient. But now she knew. She had married a man who had locked his heart in a vault and thrown away the combination. And she had no idea if she would survive living in his beautiful, empty, frozen world. Sophia woke to crushing silence. The bed beside her was empty. It had never been occupied. A note on hotel-quality stationery. Mr. Sterling departed for Singapore at 6 a.m. He'll return Friday. Margaret. Head of household. 5 days. He'd been her husband for less than 12 hours and already fled the country. She wandered through the penthouse in bare feet, marble floors cold enough to bite. Morning light revealed the full scope of her prison. White, glass, steel. A showroom, not a home. Modern art worth more than her father's life savings. Furniture too expensive to touch. The staff appeared like ghosts. Margaret offered breakfast with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Maria set the table with pitying glances. They knew. Everyone knew this marriage was a transaction. Will you be dining alone, Mrs. Sterling? The title felt like a slap. It appears so. She tried to make it feel less sterile. Moved a vase, placed a family photo on the mantel. Everything felt performative, like decorating a mausoleum. In his study, she found credit cards with her name in gold. No limits. No restrictions. Buy anything, just don't expect him. Then she saw it, a photograph face down in his desk drawer, hidden beneath documents. A young woman, maybe 20, with Mike's eyes and a radiant smile. On the back, faded ink, Elena, the only person who ever really knew me. Sophia's hands trembled. Who was Elena? And why did Mike keep her hidden like a wound he couldn't bear to touch? By the third day, Sophia felt like she was suffocating. The penthouse was beautiful, but it pressed down on her like a glass coffin. She needed air. She needed life. Exploring the building's private floors, she found a door marked Private M. Sterling with a keypad lock. Her fingers hovered over it. This was his space, his boundary. But he'd left her in this cage with no explanation, no contact. She deserved to know who she'd married. Margaret had given her a master key for emergencies. Did drowning in loneliness count? The lock clicked open. Behind it, a narrow staircase spiraled upward. Sophia climbed, heart pounding, until she reached another door. She pushed it open and stopped breathing. A rooftop garden stretched before her. Impossible and alive. Real trees with branches reaching toward the sky. Roses in full bloom, jasmine climbing trellises, herbs spilling from planters. A small greenhouse glowed in the afternoon sun. Comfortable seating nestled among the greenery. The city sprawled below, but up here, surrounded by living things, it felt like another world entirely. It was the only place in Mike's empire that had a heartbeat. Sophia sank onto a bench among the roses, and for the first time since the wedding she could breathe. Tears came, not sad ones but relief. Something real existed in his sterile world. Someone had cared enough to create this sanctuary. Elena. This had to be hers. She touched a rose petal soft as silk and whispered, "Who were you? What happened to you?" A sound behind her. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Deliberate. Male. Sophia's heart stopped. He wasn't supposed to be back until Friday. It was only Wednesday. She turned slowly as the door opened, and there he stood. Mike Sterling, still in his business suit, eyes dark and unreadable as he stared at her sitting in his secret garden. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You shouldn't be here," Mike repeated, stepping into the garden. His tie was loosened, exhaustion shadowing his face. Sophia stood, defiant despite her racing heart. "I was looking for something real. Your penthouse feels like a morgue." Something flickered across his expression. Pain, maybe. He walked past her to the roses, touching a bloom with unexpected gentleness. "My sister created this space." Sophia's breath caught. Sister. Not lover. Not ex-wife. Elena. His head snapped toward her. "How do you know that name?" "I found her photograph. In your desk." The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then, quietly, "She loved growing things. Believed gardens were proof that beauty could exist even in harsh conditions." His voice cracked on the last word. "She was the only good thing in my life." It was the first real thing he'd shared since their wedding. Sophia stepped closer, her voice soft. "What happened to her?" Mike's face transformed, shutters slamming down, walls rebuilding in real time. His jaw clenched so hard she could see the muscle jump. "She's dead. Mike. And it's my fault." The words hung in the air like broken glass. Before Sophia could respond, before she could reach for him, he turned and walked away. His footsteps echoed down the stairs, leaving her alone among Elena's roses. Sophia stood frozen, her mind reeling. His fault. What did that mean? An accident. A choice. Then she saw it, tucked beneath the greenhouse bench, almost hidden. A leather journal, worn and rain-stained, with Elena's name embossed on the cover in fading gold. Days passed like a slow bleed. Mike was home more now, Singapore deal concluded. But he avoided Sophia like she was contagious. She'd catch him watching her across the living room, his eyes dark and unreadable, but the moment she looked up, he'd turn away. The staff noticed. Margaret's pitying glances grew more pronounced. Maria started leaving extra pastries at breakfast, as if sugar could fill the void. Sophia tried everything. She cooked dinner, her grandmother's recipe, the one that always brought people together. He ate in his office. She asked about his day. One-word answers. She attempted conversation about the news, the weather, anything. He'd excuse himself, retreating behind his study door like it was a fortress. Every rejection carved deeper. She returned to the rooftop garden, the only place that felt safe. Elena's roses bloomed despite the approaching autumn. Sophia tended them carefully, watering, pruning, talking to them like they might answer. "Was she as lonely as I am?" she whispered one evening, touching a velvet petal. "Is that why she built this place? Did he push her away too?" She'd been reading Elena's journal in stolen moments. The early entries were full of light, sisterly affection, dreams, plans. But the later pages grew darker, desperate. "He's drowning and won't let me save him. He thinks his work matters more than anything. More than me." The final entry, dated 5 years ago, made Sophia's blood run cold. "I called him tonight. One last time. He said he was too busy. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep." The rest was torn out. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Urgent. Mike appeared, his face twisted with something between rage and terror. "What the hell are you doing with that?" 2 weeks of silence shattered Sophia's resolve. She found Mike in the garden at sunset, his silhouette dark against the orange sky. She'd had enough of being invisible. "Why did you marry me?" The words erupted before she could stop them. If you planned to pretend I don't exist, why bother? He didn't turn around. I fulfilled my obligations. You have everything you need. Everything. Her voice rose, trembling with fury. Everything except a husband. Except someone who sees me. She stepped closer, her whole body shaking. I wore red on our wedding night. Do you even remember? Do you? His jaw clenched, but he said nothing. I wore red because I wanted you to notice me. Tears burned her eyes. I wanted you to see me as your wife, not another acquisition in your precious portfolio. Sophia. I gave up my life for this marriage. My choices, my future, my dreams. I sacrificed everything to save my family. Her voice cracked. The least you could do is acknowledge I exist. He finally turned, and the look on his face stopped her cold. Not anger. Something worse. Something raw and wounded and terrified. You want to know why I can't look at you? His voice was barely above a whisper. Because every time I do, I see her. Every time you smile, every time you try to fix things, every time you refuse to give up. He stopped, his hands clenched into fists. You remind me of Elena. And she's dead because of me. The world tilted. What do you mean, because of you? I killed her, Sophia. As surely as if I'd been driving that car myself. Mike's control shattered like glass. Elena wasn't just my sister. She was the only person who believed in me when I was nothing. His voice broke. Brilliant, optimistic, saw good in everyone. Especially me. Sophia stood frozen, afraid to breathe. 5 years ago she called me. Rainy night. She needed a ride home from the university. He laughed bitterly. I was closing a $200 million deal. The biggest of my career. I told her to take an Uber. I told her I was too busy. The world seemed to stop spinning. Highway collision. Drunk driver crossed the median. His hands trembled. The hospital called while I was signing the contracts. By the time I got there, she was gone. 20 years old. And his voice cracked completely. I chose money over her life. Mike, you couldn't have known. I knew she needed me. The anguish in his voice cut like a blade. She always needed me, and I was always too busy building my empire. So I made myself a promise that night. Never again. Never let anyone close enough to need me. Never care about anything more than business. He looked at her with hollow eyes. Because my ambition kills people. My heart is a weapon. Sophia finally understood. Not cruel. Drowning. A man punishing himself with isolation because he couldn't forgive himself for being human. She stepped closer. You're not protecting people, Mike. You're just dying slowly. Better than killing someone else. He stopped, his face going pale. Someone else you what? His eyes locked on hers, terrified. Someone else I could love. Thunder rolled across the city as storm clouds swallowed the sunset. Sophia found Mike on the rooftop, rain beginning to fall in cold drops. He stood at the edge, staring at the city below like a man considering jumping. Why did you really walk away that night? Her voice cut through the wind. He turned, rain already soaking his shirt, plastering it to his shoulders. Sophia, don't. Tell me the truth. Lightning cracked the sky. Why our wedding night? Why me? Because you reminded me of her. The words exploded from him. Your hope, your warmth, the way you see good in broken things. Rain streamed down his face like tears. When I saw you in that red dress, looking at me like I was someone worth loving, I felt something I swore I'd never feel again. What did you feel? Hope. His voice broke. And hope destroys people, Sophia. It destroyed her. I can't fail you the way I failed Elena. She stepped closer, rain soaking them both. You're not protecting me. You're just dying slowly. Thunder crashed overhead. She reached up, taking his face in her hands, forcing him to see her. Let me in, Mike. Let me help carry it. I don't know how. Then learn. She pulled him down and their lips met. Desperate, raw, cathartic. 5 years of grief poured into that kiss. His arms wrapped around her like she was the only solid thing in his collapsing world. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, he whispered against her forehead, "I'm terrified of losing you. Then stop pushing me away." They sat in the garden as the storm passed, rain dripping from Elena's roses. Mike's voice was raw as he spoke about his sister. Her dreams of becoming a landscape architect, her infectious laugh, the way she'd believed he could change the world for good, not just profit. "She wanted me to build affordable housing," he whispered. "Said my talent was wasted on luxury towers. I told her idealism didn't pay bills." He looked at his hands like they were stained with blood. "The last thing she heard from me was, 'I'm too busy.'" Sophia's throat tightened. "I lost things too. The life I imagined. The choice to marry for love. A future where I mattered to someone." She took his hand. "But I'm still here, Mike. Still choosing you even knowing your pain." His eyes met hers, devastated and hopeful. "Why?" "Because isolation isn't penance. It's just another kind of death." They made a pact in Elena's garden. No more separate wings, no more silence. They'd try. Really try. That night, Mike stood at her door, terrified. "Will you stay in our bedroom?" She nodded. The room was dark, cavernous. They lay side by side, not touching at first. Then his hand found hers, gripping tight like she might disappear. "I'm here," she whispered. He held on through the darkness, present but trembling. At 3 a.m., Sophia woke to find his side empty. A sound from the hallway. His voice, low and urgent. She crept to the door and froze. "I don't care what it costs. Find everything. Every detail." A pause. "I need to know who she really was before this goes any further." He was investigating her. 6 months later, the penthouse had a heartbeat. Jazz played softly through the speakers. Fresh flowers, peonies, Sophia's favorite, brightened the marble counters. Photographs lined the walls. Mike and Sophia laughing at a charity gala, their hands intertwined. Elena's picture now hung openly in the living room, no longer hidden in shame. Sophia knelt in the rooftop garden, soil under her fingernails as she tended the roses. Elena's white blooms intertwined with the vibrant red ones Sophia had planted. Past and present growing together. Arms wrapped around her waist. Mike's lips brushed her shoulder. "Left work early." She smiled, leaning into his warmth. "You leave a meeting. It's our 6-month anniversary. Some things matter more." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and her breath caught. Inside lay a delicate necklace, a blood-red ruby pendant that caught the fading sunlight like captured fire. "For the woman who wore red and refused to disappear," he whispered. "Who saw a broken man and chose to stay anyway." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but this time from joy. "Mike, Elena would have loved you." His voice cracked. "She would have said you saved me. And she'd be right." This is the end of the story. Thank you for staying through till the end. Kindly subscribe and stay tuned for more stories.